What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mental Mixology, the mental health podcast that is here to make you feel a little less alone. Today, I have my best friend who's been on the podcast several times before. She was on it when I started the podcast, so I had to have her on for the first time we did video on the podcast. Next
Thank you
time
for
there'll be
having me. I'm definitely glad to be back. This is the third time, fourth time now. I
I
think
think
fourth.
fourth. Yeah, fourth, because it
Fourth
was the
now.
first time. And then the last two times we had other guests like with you, so it wasn't just like you and I.
Yeah,
So we're back at it, just you and I.
you know, back. I'm so glad to be back though. I've done it for four times now, but I think more and more excited each time I do it.
You
So
get better
thanks
at
for
it
having
too.
me.
Well, and so funny thing is too, when I started the podcast, I originally was gonna have Jessica be like my permanent co-host. But the two of us are so busy finding a time like once a week for us to be able to do like we've rescheduled this like four times. So yeah,
Yeah,
our schedules don't really allow for it. So I told Jessica, I'm like, you're not really gonna be like a permanent co-host, but you're gonna come on and be a co-host a ton. So
yeah. I'm ready for it. I'm here. I'm excited.
well, today, like I said, I brought Jessica on here. She's one of my best friends, and I think it was a good idea because we're going to talk about overthinking today. And this is something me and Jessica both struggle with. A lot of people struggle with this. I mean, it's a really common thing because overthinking, it's not a mental illness itself, but it's brought on by other mental illnesses that a lot of us deal with, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, eating disorders. I mean, there's so many that just make your mind run wild and allow you to overthink. So with us being two different people, I thought it'd be kind of neat to talk about how this affects both of us differently. um, so yeah, I was gonna say, Jess, how often do you overthink?
If I'm being realistic, multiple times a day.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think
say,
it's a very valid and prominent thing, unfortunately, in my life, I'd have to say.
well, and I think the hard thing, like personally, what makes me struggle with it so much is, like I said, it's not a mental illness. Like overthinking, it's not like, oh, you're diagnosed with overthinking. It's these other things that you're diagnosed with that create you to overthink. So personally, I have really bad anxiety and depression and a little bit of OCD, but the OCD in it, it's to the point where I will overthink so much, and when it's so bad, I can't really do anything else because it's the only thing I can think about.
Yeah.
And within the past year, I would say I've been I'm scared to start taking medicine, if I'm being quite honest.
Mhm.
It's got to the point where I've thought about it. I'm like, maybe my life will be a lot easier if I just start taking meds, but I'm truly nervous to do so just because one, I don't want to rely on something, and two, I don't know how my body's going to react to it. So I'm not kidding. Like, I've been pulling out every natural remedy. I've been Googling everything I can to see how I can just alter my life so it's not keeping me from doing things. It's not keeping me from sleeping at night. So, through the episode, we're going to kind of talk about the highs and lows of this, but I also want to really hit on the things that Jessica and I have done to try and overcome these things, because I don't think you ever truly will, but I think there's just a way you can manage and live your life without it being such a burden.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely things that I have done, to cope with it. And I think the older I've gotten, the more ways and techniques I have found and tools that have helped me kind of not really get rid of it, but deal with it and cope with it and learn kind of how to move on from it and move past it. Um, so yeah, but it's never, I don't think it's something that's going to end. It might be very few and far between, but I think it's something that will stick around for the long time.
Yeah. Well, and so I'll make you feel a little bit more comfortable by sharing some of my own issues with it. But I don't know if you can relate to this, but I think one of the worst overthinking situations I put myself in is I doomsday prep. So, and I tell people that. And when I say I doomsday prep, if you don't know what doomsday prepping is, it's like preparing for the end of the world. Like you think all these
Yep.
bad things are going to happen, so you prepare for like every scenario possible. And I am a pro at just some intrusive thought coming into my mind, nothing that relates to what's going on in my life. It it might not even be relevant. 9 times out of 10 it's not even relevant. I might even have like a dream about it. And I'm like freaked out. For instance, I could think about I could have just the thought that, oh my gosh, I got a hole in my tire. And so the whole day I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I get a hole in my tire? It's like 30 degrees out. It's raining out. What am I going to do? Do I have a tire in the back? And so the whole afternoon I'm going to think of this instance of my tire going flat and what I'm going to do. It's like, you're at work. You're not even driving. It hasn't even happened to you. It's like something as little as that I don't have figured out in my head already of how I'm going to make it work or how I'm going to make the situation better. So it's like I have to think of a solution to this in case it happens. So if it does happen, I'm fine and I'm not, in a pickle. I'm not in a negative situation. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's like I'm almost trying to avoid negative situations before they even come to fruition. And
Yeah.
it's stupid, but I can't control intrusive thoughts, It just fucking happens.
Yeah. I also think I've learned that there's a difference in like overthinking and just being prepared. And like
Yeah.
for your instance, like a flat tire on the side of the road, like not necessarily think about, oh my gosh, what, like if this happens, but necessarily like, okay, if this happens, I need to be prepared on how to
Mhm.
change a tire.
Yeah.
Like to me, and I don't know if this is like my way of like tricking myself into like
Coping.
believing, yeah, coping with it, but like my mindset is like there are things that you do need to be like vigilant about and aware about. I'm a big, when I go into public places, specifically like restaurants, like I will always sit facing the doors. Or when I go in, I'm always like, I plan an exit route. If something were to happen, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to be caught with my pants down and, now I'm screwed,
Yeah. No,
because
100%.
so I kind of, look at it. I think there's a very fine line of that balance of, yes, overthinking, but also being prepared. And with today's world and how crazy it is, you have to be prepared for stuff that you never thought you would have to.
Mhm.
And I do think that's where overthinking can go from trying to be prepared to overthinking. I think if there's a very fine line of where you cross that
Mhm.
of the preparing and overthinking of what that is.
I
And so,
agree. I agree. But see, and that's the thing is like it's almost like deciphering what is a helpful overthinking thought and what's not.
yeah,
Because so okay, so maybe the car example was bad, but then again I think it's good because when you say that, I like to think that's the benefit of me overthinking so much is I am really prepared for a lot of things that can happen because I've put so much thought into it. Like especially being a woman, going out
yeah,
places by myself. If someone comes up to me, like I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. Like if someone comes up to me, what am I going to do? Like how am I going to save myself? How am I going to protect myself?
yeah,
Granted, I normally go places in groups and I try not to be alone, but that right there, like, yeah, it's not great to constantly be thinking about that, but I think that's the positive side of it is I'm fucking ready. Like,
yeah,
like come
yeah,
behind me. Like I
yeah,
will be expecting it with this elbow or,
yeah. And I think that's more of me like trying to look at the positive side of it. Like
Yeah.
you can sit here and you can be like overthinking such a negative and dwell on it and like put yourself in this pity state of mind, or you can look at it somewhat as a positive.
Mhm.
And how am I going to get over this? How am I going to cope with this? Well, let's look at the positive side of it. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it sucks to overthink a lot of things because your mind's always running. Like, there's never a time where I feel like my mind is resting.
Mhm.
Even when I'm sleeping, I'm having these dreams and my mind's still going.
Yeah.
For me, it kind of puts my mind at ease, telling myself and turning it into a positive, okay, well, not so much overthinking, but just being prepared, you know?
100%. And you do have a point of that, but I feel like sometimes even when like you can think of the positive, it's still in like the forefront of your mind. And I say that
Oh, yeah.
because um going out to places, I can get really bad anxiety going places where I don't really know everybody.
Yeah.
Just when I know an atmosphere I'm going into isn't going to be the most comfortable for me, I will overthink about like everything that will happen. Like, how should I act? What should I wear? And it's so stupid. But like I
Mhm.
said, I'm almost trying to prepare myself so nothing bad can happen.
Yeah.
Or like, even like, let's say after the fact, I'll go somewhere. And have you ever just had a conversation with someone and like after the conversation, you're analyzing every word you said, the way your posture was, the way your eye contact was. I'm not kidding when I say I will beat myself up self up about this in almost like any conversation, especially because I go through this phase where I feel like I'm so awkward. I'm like, they probably think I'm the most awkward, like just oddest human being, like with no social skills. And I beat myself up about it. But I don't know. I think in that instance, I remind myself, or I try to remind myself after the fact, like they aren't like they're not looking that far into how you look and what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like they're not analyzing everything you're doing. But it's just during the moment or like when my mind is running with that thought, I can't make sense of that.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm thinking of like what could I done better in that instance? When honestly, it's like you didn't even do anything wrong. It's just like that
Yeah.
perfectionism of like thinking you've always done something wrong or you could do better.
Yeah. Well, I do think there's what can be a positive overthinking, and but I also think there's like negative overthinking.
Hmm.
And prime example is me this weekend. Danny and I are going up to Austin for her birthday, and of course we're leaving tomorrow as soon as I get off work. Well, of
Hmm.
course, me being a procrastinator, I have waited until still have yet to pack, and I work, very early in the morning. So like I haven't packed, we haven't got the dog stuff together. So now I'm sitting here overthinking all this, and but I have to also realize like there's no time frame. Like we
Yeah.
got the hotel, like we can check in whenever, like where
Mhm.
there's no rush. We're not going and doing anything the first night. So like we're
Yeah.
just hanging out. So like there's positives and there's negative overthinking. I think,
Mhm.
I'm a big at when I first realized that I was overthinking a lot of things, it was a lot of negative things. And
Yeah.
I saw it a lot in like my relationships. Um,
Hmm.
Sometimes like my friends' relationships, but sometimes like actual relationships where I saw it. And I think it got worse the more relationships I had been in, just because everyone deals with the negative sides of
Hmm.
relationships. Like, right, all relationships aren't perfect. You're gonna go through these negative things. And a lot of times, like, people walk out with trauma and abuse
Hmm.
and PTSD. And a lot of people don't realize it, but that carries over not only into your next relationship if you don't figure it out before within yourself,
Yep.
but that carries over into your everyday life. And
Hmm.
so what I noticed is, I had not gotten over my past traumas before getting into these other relationships, and then I started questioning and overthinking them for
Hmm.
things that my last partner did. So
Yep.
then, that made me overthink things in our relationship that then turned into an argument. That was a
Hmm.
fight. That was a negative side. Now we're on the downward of our relationship, all because I overthink
Overthunk.
something,
Overthought. Yeah.
overthunk,
Overthunk. I love that.
I overthunk something from the past. So I had to
Reminds me
get.
of like the hillbilly in Sedalia. I'm sorry, but
Dude,
I
I'm from
love that.
Sedalia, small town Sedalia. Don't, I can only go so far with my language.
Hey, you can't. You can take the girl out of Sedalia, but you can't take the Sedalia out of the girl.
Not me, not me. I'm country as fuck.
But I love that you say that because I think that is so spot on, especially when there's infidelity in the relationship. Just
Yeah,
because, especially like you said, like the trickling over into the next one. But even, you know, if you're still with that person, I don't know. That's why it's really hard to be like, I always think like once a cheater, always a cheater, because I don't think you're ever going to have solace in your relationship
yeah,
because you're constantly going to be like, am I enough for this person? Is this person going to leave me? Are they going to do it again? They go out and do something. It's like, okay, well, are you saying you're doing what you're doing? Or like that trust is never going to be there. Big word, trust, because
yep,
that can have you overthink. That's why, like, if you have trust issues with your partner and it's not something you can get over, maybe it's not the relationship for you because like I said, you're going to constantly overthink because that trust is not there, and you don't deserve that. You deserve to be in a relationship with not even a romantic relationship, but even friendships, family relationships. Trust is a really big thing, and you will constantly overthink and have like the what ifs if you don't have that trust. But like you said too, that trickles into other relationships. You'll start dating someone after you were with someone who wasn't loyal to you, and you're going to think that they're going to do the same thing. So,
yeah,
you're going to treat that, you're just going to have that guard up like, oh, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you with? Or if you're not someone who's going to constantly verbally express your concerns, you're just going to sit in your thoughts. And that's personally something I dealt with because my first relationship dealt with some infidelity, like, and it was one of those things too where like there was never really proof to it. It was like a he said, she said thing. And that was the hardest part about it, I think, because when you don't have proof, and that's the thing, I never like, I'm an on facts kind of person. So, like, not having the factual proof on it, it's like, how can I really act on this when I don't know for sure? But then again, like, you're sitting there, you're like, fuck, like, is this like, what do I like? You're overthinking about it because
yeah,
you don't know what to believe. And then, like I said, if you don't resolve that, you go into the next relationship with that guard up, and it affects your relationship. It really
yeah,
does.
yeah. I'd have to agree. If you go through something, whether it's a trauma in a relationship or your life,
Hmm.
if people don't realize, like, if you don't handle that and, really understand, well, why did that cause me trauma?
Hmm.
How do I not necessarily get over it because it's always going to be in your life now, but
Yeah.
like, how do you cope with that? And then how do you move forward
Yeah.
knowing that whatever happened in the past affected you somehow? And I
Exactly.
think, there's a lot of times people will just want to jump into another relationship to
Hmm.
kind of forget their ex. And I think, it's good for the first few months, and
Hmm.
then like reality sets in and emotions set in.
Yeah, it's
And
not like the honeymoon phase anymore.
yeah, that
Mhm.
honeymoon phase goes away with this new person now. And again, reality kicks in, and you realize that now you've not only hurt someone else, but you're going to hurt this next person because now you don't want to be with them because you didn't handle your past shit. So it's just like
Exactly.
it's going to be an ongoing cycle until you learn to, like, figure it out.
And I will say it's really hard to understand your own like overthinking process personally. So I don't want to be the person like, oh, you have to like deal with your overthinking before you get into a new relationship. No, because that can honestly take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But the big thing that helps is when you get into a new relationship, communication has to be on point. And I can't stress that enough because one, you have to have it in you to express to your new partner, like, look, I've been through this. I struggle with overthinking because of what I've gone through. I just need from you, like, the communication so we can always be on the same page. because
Yeah.
I think that communication, like being honest with your partner, being upfront with them, not have, I don't want to say games or just like the ghosting, but be transparent. I think that's the best way I
Yeah.
can explain it. Like you have to be transparent with your partner, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with what's going on. Because if you're not, you're going to go into that next relationship carrying the same baggage from the one prior. And I don't know. I don't think it has the high percentage to last because it's hard. It's hard dealing with someone who overthinks because I think we all deal with our own overthinking. So it's like you're overthinking, I'm already overthinking. Like you can only take so much,
Yeah.
especially
Well,
like
I
the
think,
outward effects from it.
yeah, well, the two biggest, the two most important things in a relationship to me and my personal experience is trust and communication
Hmm.
because I think they go hand in hand.
Yep.
Like your partner isn't going to communicate to you if they don't trust you.
Hmm.
And they're if you don't have any trust in your relationship, then you really don't have anything.
Yep.
But if they don't trust you, then you need to make them comfortable enough to communicate their issues with you. And if you haven't done that to them, then those two things are going to clash
Hmm.
and there's going to be an issue. Like there's going to be a stop in your relationship that you're either going to get over or you're not. Like get over together and figure it out or you won't. But I also think that comes with like everyday life and just overthinking in general because like you said it perfectly. Everyone overthinks in their own way and you can only handle so much overthinking before you combust, like you can
Yeah.
only handle so much. And that overthinking turns to stress, and our bodies can only handle so much stress. If you're under all this overthinking and stress, not only does that affect you mentally and emotionally, but it affects you physically. People stop eating when they're stressed.
Oh,
They
exactly. Well,
stop taking care of themselves. They
mhm.
stop drinking water. They don't get out and get any sunlight. Everyone needs sunlight for their body. Like it's
No, it's, yeah,
very,
it's a scientific fact.
it
Just
is.
pointed
So
it out.
like they stop going out. Then their social life stops because they're so stressed. Then they overthink of, well, what am I going to wear? Who's going to be there? What if this happens? So they overthink themselves out. And not only, your mental, emotional, physical side, your social life now has plummeted,
Hmm.
all because of something not necessarily so small, but something that you couldn't quite get a hold on or a grip on before it kind of spiraled out of control.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people shut down. Like I personally, and that's something I'm trying to work on, but when my overthinking's to the point where like I can't focus on anything, I shut down. I don't go
Yeah.
anywhere, I don't do anything, and it doesn't help me because it's not good just being alone with your thoughts, but like you said, you get bogged down by so many intrusive thoughts that you can't control. I'm not kidding. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do aside from just like lay in bed. And that's the worst thing you can do for yourself. But
Yeah.
it almost drains you of your energy. And that's why establishing trust, and let me also point out, trust should be earned. It should not automatically be given, especially, to
Yeah,
be able to talk
absolutely.
about
Yeah.
your mental health and things like that. But in this day and age, there are so many things to overthink about. Your relationship should not be one of them. If your relationship is causing you to overthink, I'm not saying break up with your boyfriend, girlfriend, your partner, but like I said, between overthinking at work, overthinking about finances, overthinking about your future, hell, I could go on the list of the things I overthink about.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we deal with on a day to day basis. You need to have certain things in your life, like your relationships, with your partner, with your family. You need to have things that bring you that peace because if you're overthinking about everything, you're going to go mad. You're going to go
Yeah.
absolutely mad. And I'm literally saying this because I am speaking off of experience. That is when I've had some of my like almost breaking points of like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like, my mind won't shut off. Nothing's going right. Like, and that's, like I said, that's where people give up.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when we lived together, there were a couple times where either you were sad or I was sad about something, and we'd be in our rooms for the whole weekend, and like I wouldn't see you and you wouldn't see me. Door was shut, like, but we also had that conversation before we moved in of like, hey,
Yeah.
if I'm going through it, expect this. And so it was easier for us to deal with it when it happened with each other.
Mhm.
But one, I trusted you. And two, we communicated what was going to happen. So like
Exactly.
that solved a lot of issues because since we're both overthinkers, my first instinct would have been, well, what did I do? Because she's not talking to me. She's in her room, all cooped up. She won't come out. Like, obviously, like, it had to have been me. Like, I did something wrong. But since we communicated beforehand, like what to expect, that eliminated all of that.
Hmm.
And I feel like, eliminated an argument if it would have ensued.
Yep.
It kept
Exactly.
our trust.
Hmm.
It kept our communication at a level it should have been. So like
Uh-huh.
a very simple conversation prevented a lot of more negative outcome.
Yes. Hold on. Can we just take a minute and applaud ourselves? We lived together for a full year. I don't even think we fought once.
I don't either, I would have to
Like
say.
now
The
when you
only
said that.
the only time you were mad at me until you figured out what happened was when I
Uh-huh.
locked you out of the
Oh my
apartment. And you had to climb 2 stories
Okay.
into my
Yeah,
window.
so long story short, Jessica literally got roofied, and I worked at the bar that she got roofied at. We don't have facts, but I'm sorry, I know my best friend. She would have fun and get drunk. This girl was like incoherent and put the deadbolt lock over the door. Not even the deadbolt, it's like the chain. I have the door open. I'm like screaming for her, doesn't hear me. I had to crawl in her window. Thank baby Jesus you had that unlocked because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten into the
Mind you, it
apartment.
was 2 stories. We lived on the second story, so her boyfriend like threw her up, and
I'm
she
honest.
scaled the rest of the like outside of my window. We had like the AC units, so there was like a little skinny platform where they sat on, and luckily enough, she like scaled her way up, opened it. Didn't you like shake me and stuff, and were like
Yeah.
yelling at me? And I
Well,
just like I
first, I
don't
think I
remember a
was
single
really
thing.
mad at you because I literally still have never found this belly button ring. It was like a cheetah belly button ring and it like ripped out of my stomach because I was crawling up like it got caught and I didn't realize it. But
Oh,
that's like you said, that's how I knew that you weren't just drunk and like
yeah.
you had to have been drugged or roofied in some way because one, I was screaming bloody murder when I was first trying to get in and I woke up every one of my neighbors except for Jessica. And then I
At
opened
3 in the morning.
yeah, 3 in the morning. Then I opened the window and you had like a soda can, like an empty soda can in the window, and I was pissed. I took it and I just fucking beamed it out you. And it just bounced off you and you didn't move. And then I just like pushed you to like wake you up. I'm like, Jessica! Nothing. Dead to the world. And I say this because
Yeah.
she would fall asleep on our bathroom floor and I'd like kick her and wake her up, walk her to bed, be like, okay, buddy, like good night. Yeah. Nothing. So that was honestly, yeah, probably the only tension we had. But like I said, when she woke up and she didn't remember anything, I'm like, okay, you're cool. It's
Yeah.
okay.
I
I
woke up, I'll just
understand.
like this is just like the last thing we'll say about it because it was really fucking funny. But I woke up with like 67 missed calls and about 120 text messages from her, and I knew I fucked up. I don't know what I did because I didn't remember anything. The last thing I remember was leaving the bar, and I was stupid, and I'd always walk home alone from the bar because we lived like a block away. So I would leave when they closed the bar, and then I would just wait for them to get home. And so I would just lock the door, but not the deadbolt. Never once have I ever locked them out, but
You
this
just
one
thought
night.
someone was gonna come in there and like take your ass, so you
And
definitely
I don't
did it.
remember coming home. Like, I don't remember anything. I just remember waking up at like 7 o'clock in the morning the next morning and having, yeah, like 200 messages from her. And they were very grumpy messages. And I knew I fucked up. I didn't know what I did, but I knew I fucked up.
I'm sorry.
And
I had just gotten off work. I wanted to lay in bed. Like I was
no,
so done
dude,
with the
I would
night.
have been pissed as fuck too. Like, I don't blame you at all. But yeah, I woke up that next morning and I was like, I'm kind of scared to go into a room and talk to her because I don't know what I'm going to get yelled at for, but I am going to get yelled at for something.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I feel like, so if you know me, you know, like I am not really a big drinker. I honestly, I can't even tell you the last time I was drunk. Like alcohol is just like, I have nothing against it. I have nothing against people that like to drink. I just personally am not like the biggest. Like I'll do it with my friends if it's a special occasion, but I'm not just going to go out of my way on like a weekend and go drinking. And I think one of the factors of that is I overthink when I'm drunk so bad. You would think that it would stop, but it's the fact that I'm not acting like myself because of what the alcohol does to you. I'm like constantly over analyzing. Like, I'm like, I don't want to be stupid. I don't want to act up. Or it's
Yeah.
even the fact of like, you know, like the next day scaries. I don't know what they call them. Like, when you're hungover and you're just like freaked out, like, what did I do? Like, was I acting
Yeah.
stupid? It's like the mix of those two things. And you would think that alcohol would keep you from overthinking, but something about it just makes it happen more.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm cool on it. Like, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah.
I don't overthink a lot when I'm drunk. I overthink a lot the next day
Yeah.
because I used to, you know this, but like borderline alcoholic, if we're being for real that year that I lived.
Girl, you don't gotta
I think
tell
I don't
me.
even know if it was borderline. Like I drank most nights when I'd go up to the bar and see
I
her.
did enable that, so I will take some responsibility. I was her bartender. She would come see me
Yeah.
when I would work on the weekends, and
Yep.
I liked making fun drinks. I would just start pouring stuff. I'd realize that the cup was more than half full of liquor. I'm like, okay, let's add a splash of a mixer in there for her.
Yeah. My problem is, and I still have this problem, but I really don't drink a lot anymore. Honestly, after that year living there, I kind of like had to chill out on the whole alcohol thing. I just burnt
Mhm.
myself out on it. But
Yeah.
I'm a very liquid courage type of girl when I get
Mhm.
drunk. And so I don't like overthink in the moment because I really don't think when I'm drunk. It's the next day that I wake
Yeah.
up and I'm
Mhm.
like, fuck, what did I do? Like,
Yeah.
who did I call? Who did I text? Who did I hang out with that night? Like, what did we go do? Like,
Yeah.
it's the next morning that will get me a lot, especially when if it ever gets to the point where like I'm like blackout drunk and I
Mhm.
don't remember. That's what like makes me overthink and freaks me out because like for the life of me, I can't remember the next morning, like or that
Yeah.
last night. Like I don't
Mhm.
remember it.
Yeah. See, and part of mine almost stems from the fact that I'm slightly a control freak. So that's the thing is like when I'm drunk and I can't control what I'm doing, and I'm also a fucking people pleaser. So I'm constantly, and it's stupid to worry about what other people think so much. That's
Yeah,
honestly probably one of my biggest fatal flaws, especially when you're drinking. You should be able to just have fun and be yourself and like let
yeah,
loose. But like I said, it's the overthinking. Like, am I going to do something stupid? Is this, or like I said, like it almost brings up things that are happening in my life that I'm trying to forget. It's literally like my brain's like, oh, you tried to forget this, but like, psych, bitch, we're going to think about it.
yeah,
Have fun with your friends. So that's right. And like I said, like, that's where the OCD comes in because it's that obsessive compulsive, like I said, when you're trying to have fun, it's like, yoo-hoo, I'm still here,
yeah,
like kind
yeah,
of thing. And it just, yeah, it sucks. Like I said, I don't like not drink because of it, because it doesn't always happen. But like I said, that's why I do it on occasion, because if you do it on occasion, I don't really see it happening to myself as much.
yeah,
But that's the thing is, it kind of sucks because, my parents are really big drinkers, so they give me shit for like not doing it. But even when I'm with my parents, like, this is so stupid. My mom, I called her the other day this week, and just to like talk to her about something like random. You know how it is when you like I don't know. Everybody has a different relationship with their mom. Sometimes I call my mom about like the dumbest shit just because it's like, "Hi, I missed
I
you."
call my mom about anything, like everything.
Minor inconvenience, Jennifer.
Yeah,
Um, but when I answered the phone, and granted, like last time I saw her, it was Thanksgiving, like she was kind of drunk. When I answered the phone, or she answered the phone, she like had this weird tone with me. Like she was mad. And so we hang up, and like all day I'm like, what did I do to my mom? Like she seems like she's mad at me. bro, this lady was getting a colonoscopy and I forgot. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder she was talking to you weird. She was like literally like she was at the place getting a like she probably hadn't gotten it then, but she was definitely at the hospital. So me, I'm here overthinking like my mom hates me. No, Alex, you're a terrible daughter and you forgot she's getting a procedure done.
She's like under like anesthesia, and the doctor just hands her the phone, like, "Hey, your daughter's on the line." She's like, "Yeah, what's up, Alex?"
Why do you hate me?
Yeah, yeah, you're on the other end bawling, like, "Why do you hate me, mom?" She's like,
Yeah.
"What?"
That's right there why overthinking and I always tell people too when I hear because I'm the queen of like giving advice, but I never listen to my own. When other people are overthinking, I'm like, you don't need to think about this until it's a legitimate like warrior thought. Like if you go to the doctor and they run a test and you're like, I don't know if I have cancer. I'm like, you don't know if you do or not yet, so don't worry about something until you have a reason to worry.
Yeah, yeah.
But when it comes to my overthinking, I just don't. I'm like, you're
Well, I
wrong.
also think I'm with some of the challenges with my personal life and just like within me. I'm trying to like face those and
Wait, can
cope
I
with
ask you
those
to
better.
dive in a little bit, like, so I can like
Like,
understand specifics if
like
you're comfortable?
any past trauma, like relationship issues,
Hmm.
or I had a very different childhood growing up when it came to being gay.
Hmm.
That caused like a lot of trauma for me as a kid growing up and not being accepted by your own parents. So
Yeah.
like some of that stuff, overthinking is another thing, having anxiety. And I've gotten to the point where it's like I have to ask, like you have to get to the root of the problem. So it sounds silly, but when I overthink something, my first question is why? Why am I overthinking this? And then I just try to like break it down from there until I've gotten to the root of the issue. And then I can start solving the root of the issue,
Hmm.
because it's not so much like, it's almost, I don't know how the best way to explain this, but if there's like a cell and then you have all your other little things around it, you
Hmm.
can fix all the other things, but if you don't fix the main thing that's wrong,
Yep.
you're going to continue to experience all the outside.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to find what was that the core, like what is the core of why I feel the way that I feel when when I do something wrong and someone confronts me. Sometimes I can be defensive. Well, why do I do that? That was the first thing I asked. Well, why do I become
Hmm.
defensive? And after thinking about it and breaking it down and thinking about like the what is the root of it, I can say, well, you know, I never wanted to admit when I was wrong growing up because I was scared I was going to get in trouble or grounded or spanked or your phone taken away. So now, growing up, it was like to deflect, like,
Yeah.
well, I didn't do that, or, almost like lie. And
Hmm.
I didn't do it, like just not take accountability. And now, like learning to take accountability. And I've also learned that people have a lot more respect for you if you can own up to what you did wrong
Hmm.
and talk about it. And well, this is why I did that, and it might have not obviously been the best decision in that moment,
Hmm.
but I've learned my lesson. I will move forward and it won't happen again, and I can start working off of that. But until you know the root of the issue, I don't think much will get solved when you're trying to hit all the other little tiny things. Like, get to what is the
Hmm.
bigger picture behind all of this.
Yeah, I think you're spot on actually that you say that because at first you're like saying that I'm like, what is she like? Where is she going with this? But then like you hit home.
Tried to loop it back
Yeah,
around a little bit.
I'm following. I'm definitely following because that's where yours stems from. Because when you were talking about that, I was trying to like see how that I was trying to kind of zoom back to kind of see where my overthinking comes from. And yours is like you said, you're gay. That wasn't something your parents accepted right away, so that was a big root of it, because some of the closest people in your life, like that's really hard to almost go through growing up and not have that confidence. Like I said, you would just overthink of that one situation because, like I said, it wasn't like it was a easy conversation you could have with your parents.
Yeah, and I mean at that age, like, 12, 13 years old, and not having that support,
Hmm.
it made me start to overthink because to me at that age and them not accepting me
Hmm.
straight to, well, they don't love me.
Hmm.
So they don't want me around then. If they don't love me, why would they want me around?
Hmm.
So my solution was that was, well, I might as well not be here. Just take myself out because
Yeah.
everyone would be much happier here without me because I'm gay and I am who I am.
Yeah.
And all of that, stemmed from overthinking. And,
Hmm.
I have also not been the best partner in my past relationships. And I
Hmm.
think, that is also something that I'm actively still working through and like working, with Danny now on ways to
Yeah.
communicate better and ways to take accountability and
Hmm.
ways to be a good partner to whoever I'm with
Hmm.
and make them feel just as good about themselves as well.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I was gonna say, like, that was your come up with it, but I think like where a lot of mine stems from, just to give people a different perspective. um I wasn't the easiest kid to raise. I'll just say that. Like, I got into my fair share of trouble. I'd like to say it's because I love my parents. My parents raised me really well, but my parents were slightly like, they were just really strict on me. Granted, I always say I'm the oldest. I was the guinea pig kid. They were trying to learn how to be parents. So that's the thing. I have grace for my parents, but them always having to hover over me in my life made me rebel a lot. And when I
Yeah.
rebelled, we come from a really small town where parents, and this happens everywhere. This isn't just small town life. Parents gossip more than children do. But parents gossip about children. And when parents would gossip, it would get back to my parents, and I would get in trouble for things like that. So I grew up after learning some hard lessons. Like, I have to be perfect. Like, what are other people thinking about me? What are they going to say about me? Because, like I said, I was so used to everything I did getting relayed back to my parents, whether I knew it, whether I liked it or not. So I think that's why I'm so self conscious about how I'm presented around others, because my parents were, it's a small town. My parents knew everybody. So, like I said,
Yeah.
anything I did that someone saw, my parents knew about. So I was constantly, like I said, I'm so paranoid about what people think of me, about being on point on my game all the time, because it was such a big factor in my life as I got older. And to be honest, until you said that, like, I didn't really think about that, because as I mentioned, a lot of my overthinking comes from like people pleasing and just what other people think about me, and it's stupid, but when you grow up and that's such a big concern, it's so hard being an adult and just like snapping out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of us struggle with overthinking, because like Jessica said, it's like this past trauma or this past reason why we act the way we do, and you can't just like change that. You can't change your foundation. You just have to be able to move forward in a better way, and like you said, like accept what you've been through and just focus on it to allow yourself to just work around it, or just excel above it. Like, just not let it be a burden. I don't know what the word I'm
Yeah.
looking to say.
Well, and it's like I've done, like I said, I'm doing more research into, ways to become a better version of me and be a
Hmm.
good person. And
Yeah.
one thing that I find very interesting that I don't think is very talked about amongst people when it comes to like your childhood is is you start remembering certain things at like 2, 3, 4 years old.
Mhm.
So it's stuff that, but it's more of like it's in your brain,
Mhm.
but you necessarily don't, like it's not a memory. So your brain is associating something that may have happened when you were 4 that you don't actually remember, but your brain remembers.
Yep.
And you're dealing with it later now in life, but you're not understanding like why.
Mhm.
And then you people tend to blame, well, it must have been my past relationship. Like it must have been this. But again, you're not finding the root
Mhm.
of the issue. And I think that's where people run into mistakes and problems of only getting so far in this self journey of self, finding yourself,
Mhm.
is not understanding your full self. They will stop when they remember. Like you
Mhm.
tend to pick up your memories of obviously when you remember stuff.
Mhm.
But there's stuff that you really do remember and first impressions. And there's, everyone's always like, well, be careful how don't cuss in front of kids because they pick up on that stuff.
Mhm.
You start picking up on things in life at a much younger age than I think a lot of people realize.
Mhm.
And that starts the second your brain starts remembering things and memories and people's faces, then that's when it begins. Like you now, have a lot more, I think you're open and you're a bigger target to trauma and bad things because you're starting to remember that.
Yeah.
And if you remember it, you're always going to remember it. Your brain is typically never going to forget that stuff unless you go through something so bad that it is a trauma response
Mhm.
to forget things. And
Yeah.
that's why, a lot of times when you see like kids and parents reconnect after years and years, like their parents are way older and the kids are all grown up now, and the kids confront the parents about like the way they were treated when growing up, like abused, and the parents are like, we would never treat you like that, like you're like you've got to be making that up and not taking that
Gaslighting.
accountability because they know what they did,
Yeah.
but it's a trauma response to deny it and not remember it and push it so far back in your mind that you do tend to forget
Mhm.
the truth and what happened.
Yeah. Well, and your mind can also alter a lot of those situations. So, like you said, with like the whole parents thing, they don't remember it like that because
Yeah.
that's how and that happens. I don't want to say everybody has bipolar disorder, but one big thing with bipolar disorder is, when you deal with that, it distorts how you portray situations from how they really
Yep.
can be. And like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, oh, everybody has bipolar disorder, but it's very common. That's why, everybody says there's two sides to the story. We all interpret situations differently. So, like you said, being honest with people and talking about it. But, if you're having a hard time finding the root of maybe why you're overthinking all the time, too, I mean, therapist Jessica just helped me kind of identify it. But that's the thing. Maybe go to a therapist because therapists aren't people where it's not like what you think. Like you sit on the couch, you kick your feet up, and you just talk about your problems. They can actually because there's different therapists for different types of mental illnesses or mental
Right.
disorders. And if you find someone to help with your overthinking or OCD or anxiety is probably a better fit for like the overthinking portion of it. But they're going to ask you the questions, not like, oh, why are you sad? But they are going to help you dive in to find what the root cause of it is. Because, like Jessica said, I think that not only can it help you move forward and find better ways to go about some situations, but a lot of people a lot of people don't react to their overthinking appropriately, and then they use that as an excuse when things go wrong or if they treat people badly. It's like we said with the relationship thing. You had past trauma from your relationship, you're having a hard time with trust in your new relationship, and like even though things are going wrong, just because you're blaming the person in the past, that doesn't make it okay, that doesn't alleviate what's going on. So that's why, being mindful of where it's stemming from is something that, like, yes, you might have to reflect after a situation happens, because I personally sometimes don't come to that consciousness when I'm in the moment. But it's important to, reflect after the fact if you have to, if you can't do it in the middle of like what's going on, to be like, okay, because I dealt with this is how I responded to the situation. Like, you
Yeah.
have to, you have to be brutally honest with yourself, and it's hard. It's, if it was easy, none of us would deal with this. But if you're in constant denial of it, you're going to have the same issues. That's why you have to be honest with yourself, because I would lie to myself all the time, like, this isn't me, like, this is just my trauma. But my boyfriend doesn't need to deal with my trauma. That's not fair to him. And that's the
Yeah.
point I realized. Like, all these people don't deserve to deal with the things you've gone through. So that's why you have to try and you have to work at it, because it will ruin the relationships around you. It's easier
Yeah.
said than done. And like, and even like, you can bring it into the workplace, because like, I overthink about work all the time. So if I take my stupid overthinking from my personal life and then I mix it with my work, or I take my work life and all the overthinking I bring home with me and start projecting onto the people I love, it's just this constant cycle. And like I said, that is an easy way to get to the point where you're like, I can't take this anymore. Like, it's just this, it won't stop. My brain won't stop.
Yeah. Well, most people react on emotion too. They don't react on reality, I guess. They don't
Yeah.
act on like logistics.
Hmm.
Most people, not everyone, but majority of people react on emotion. When you're upset, when you're overthinking, you're typically doing this in a state of mind where you're not your normal self. You're probably sad about something or mad about something, and you react, which makes you overthink in a state of emotional chaos,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
people don't take a step back, and that's what I'm learning to do, is not react with emotion, but
Yeah.
react, logically, and let me take a step back. Let me even come back to this like later when I'm cool and calm and collected, and then let me think about it. And if I still feel the same way, then okay, let me almost dissect that now, and why do I feel like that? It's,
Hmm.
again, it's back to the why. And I know it's like, it's such like a broad question, and it's such like a simple word with one little question mark at the end, but it can, if you really break it down, it can answer a lot of your questions. And
Hmm.
I even, I will write my, if you need to write it on a paper, and then like tree, break it down, and find it there and really draw it out and map it out. But I think people also not only react on emotion, but when they overthink, it's because they don't understand.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm realizing, is there's a lot of times where I will react either on emotion or overthink because I don't understand it. So then it makes me assume something. If I don't understand it, well, I'm going to assume it how I think it or how I take it. And that
Hmm.
might not be the right way or the best way or a positive outcome, but it's because I don't understand. So, again, if you truly start to understand yourself as a person,
Hmm.
then you can start to understand some of the issues that you have as a person. And then
Oh,
they
yeah.
start to make sense, and you stop reacting off emotion
Hmm.
and react off what's real and what's and who's you. Like, you react based off your personality, who you are, because you know yourself better.
Exactly. Well, and to be honest, you can ask yourself why. And I think when it comes to personal overthinking, that's a really good thing to do. But like you said, you have to be logical and take the emotion out of it. Because, for example, at work, my higher up wanted to have a meeting with me one day. And I don't know why, like, one on one meetings just intimidate me. But he said that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? Like, what are we going to talk about? And I'm not all night. It sucks. I wish he would have just told me that day, like, hey, let's go talk. Because I'm not kidding. All night, I'm like, what is this going to be about? Like, trying to rack my brain. Did I do anything wrong? But I wish in that moment I would have been like, Alex, you do your job correct. Like, you haven't done anything wrong. Like, why would you think something's
Yeah.
wrong? Because then, like I said, I was worried all night, barely got any sleep. He literally just wanted to talk to me about like a project going on.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted me to
Yeah.
work on. And I
Yeah.
got out of the meeting and I'm like, I just wasted. Like, I got no sleep last night. I didn't enjoy, because that's the thing. Like, I didn't enjoy my night because all I could think about was like, what is this meeting gonna be? And then it ends up being that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fudgy bunnies. Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
You
Well, you
know?
and you said it perfectly earlier though. Like it's not your partner's job to fix it.
Hmm.
It's their job to support you through it,
Hmm.
but you have to figure yourself out. Like it's not
Exactly.
your partner's job to figure you out for
Hmm.
you. Like you have to know yourself and you can't
Yeah.
solve their problems if you don't know yourself because you don't really know them either if they don't know themselves because they're telling you their version of what they think they are not who they actually are because they don't know themselves. So I think it
Exactly.
all it all falls back to the overthinking, to anxiety,
Yeah.
to all of it. Like they go hand in hand,
Yep.
kind of everything.
No, exactly. That's why, like I said, I've over the past year had such I've just gotten to the point where it's gotten to I can't handle it. You know, you
Yeah.
overthink about so many things. So I like how you say like you would write things down and kind of like tree branch, like kind of divvy out like why you're thinking about some of the things. So one thing that I started doing to, and I'm not kidding, I've gotten so creative. We'll go through all the things we've done, but recently I started cold plunging because like first thing in the morning, because
Yeah.
it's supposed to lower your cortisol, you know, help you sleep
Hmm.
better at night. Because that's another thing. I would wake up in the middle of the night overthinking about things and wouldn't be able to fall back asleep. So it helps you sleep through the night. It helps with anxiety and depression. I mean, there's just so many good factors. And I did it really because my overthinking got to the point, because so I work remotely and I go into the office once a week. And it would get to the point where I would barely sleep because my mind was just running heavy. I would wake up and I was groggy. I didn't have motivation. Like I was just in this slump. And like I said, it came with a lot of overthinking. So I did research and through all my research, came to the conclusion that if you cold plunge, which I thought you would have to do it between 40 and 50-degree weather. I've seen people do it, well, not weather, water temperature. People be doing this in like snow around them,
Oh
iced
yeah.
over, but
Yeah.
doing it first thing in the morning, like as soon as you wake up. 2 minutes is like where it's effective. I would do like 2 to 3 minutes because I'm also like a little baby, and that is it shocks your body. Like at first, you're like, I I was hyperventilating. I'm like, I can't breathe. Like your heart's
Yeah.
racing. It was awesome though. When I say my mornings were really good, I had a lot more energy. You know, like I was focused on my work. Yes, you'd have those overthinking scenarios when things come up through the day, but it was such a positive start to my mornings. And I would have to force myself because jumping in like freezing cold water when you first wake up is not the most enticing thing to do. But
Yeah.
it gets to the point where you get used to it.
Uh-huh.
So that is a super creative thing I've just started doing to help, because like I said, it got to the point where I'm like, I will try anything at this point. So yeah, if you haven't cold plunged before, I highly recommend it. You can literally buy them on Amazon too. They're pretty cheap. You could do it in your bathtub for, yeah, for whatever reason. But um
Yeah, I've heard they
yeah.
have really good like health benefits.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I work out. That's another thing I do when I overthink. That's something I do at the end of my day almost every day. I put on my music as loud as it can go, trap, rap, whatever, to drown out every thought I have. I'm like buzzing on pre-workout and a few you know, puffs. And that's the thing. Like I make it to the point where like I just have to focus on what's going on and I can't think of anything else around me. I'll even turn my phone on don't disturb. So the cold plunges help with my like muscle recovery too. But while I'm talking on that, the gym, that is my biggest overthinking release. And I purposely save it for the end of my days because after a long day of work and like just all the bullshit that can just be piled up, that is the one thing. Like I said, I turn on my music, I get in the zone. I'm like, I literally won't let a notification bug me. I'm focusing on myself and getting a big booty and some nice shoulders, like that is the focus.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
What
I
about
know,
you?
like, the gym has really good benefits, health benefits, so
It
I'm all for it.
does. I want to hear about you because I'm not trying to out you, but Jessica doesn't really work out. I know she hasn't
I
cold
don't
plunged before. Like, what do you do when you're
like,
at the
well, okay,
height?
so, like, I did a lot of, like, the ice baths back in, like, my sport playing days, and so, yeah,
Oh,
like, don't
okay.
get me
Yeah,
wrong, like,
yeah.
they suck. They definitely
Yeah,
suck, but they do make your
yeah.
body feel better. They do.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to agree. I don't know if I can say what I do to cope with my stress.
It's it's legal.
In Missouri, when I lived in Missouri, and
Hmm.
it is legal there, I
With her
would,
medical card.
with my medical card, yes. I occasionally smoked some marijuana, but now that I live in Texas and it's not, we like to take the dogs for walks, just being outside. We have like a little park up by our house, and so we go up there like a lot, make the dogs
Mhm.
run around, and honestly, we play like little kids on the playground, and
But getting out in
but we like to,
nature, that's really nice.
yeah, we
Like, I
like to,
bet that
like to
just
go outside. Like
uh-huh.
sometimes we'll just pile the dogs in the car and we'll go drive around town and
Mhm.
see things. Like we just like to get out of the house.
I think nature is a big help, and I would do that a lot
Yeah.
too, especially in college. I would doesn't really sound that safe, but I drive out to like a park and I
Yeah.
just sit out there. I wouldn't like I would leave my phone. Another not really safe thing. I'd leave my phone because I
Don't do
don't want.
that now,
Yeah,
anybody.
you take your phone. You silence it, but you take your phone. But I just it was the point of not having distractions. That's why even like going
Yeah.
on social media breaks, I just did it for like a month because I was overthinking about just every stupid thing that could happen. Limiting your distractions can be very helpful. Like just go back to the basics, read a book,
Yeah.
go outside, just it's just becoming one with yourself again. Like I said, drowning out all the other distractions that aren't necessary for you. Like I said, social media, taking a break from that. It can be hard,
Mhm.
but it's helpful.
Yeah.
I was trying
Yeah.
to think of the other thing.
Another big thing I love to do that is like one of it's like my favorite thing to do right now, but I love Legos. So I build Legos.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. That's actually really
I like
fun.
puzzles too. Me and like
Ooh.
we I do a lot of puzzles and
Mhm.
like I'll paint it, like put the glue over them and then like hang them so I always can like keep
Oh,
them.
I like
But
that.
yeah, I do a lot of like puzzles. I do like coloring, but I don't really like here lately I haven't colored a lot. But
See,
yeah,
art's
I've been on a
another
big
good
Lego
one
kick.
though. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I would do like chalk drawings. I've actually done like I'm not
Oh
like a
yeah.
huge artist. Like I'm not a artist. My
No,
nana.
neither am I.
I was gonna say I have it in me. My nana is like the best artist. I mean, my nana's immaculate, so I have to have some like good artistic ability. But that's another thing. Like art's really good. Listening to
Yeah.
music's really good. Um,
You know, a lot of people journal, journaling, like having a
writing,
diary, just
write a
writing down your
book.
thoughts.
And you
Yeah.
don't even have to
What's
publish it or anything.
yeah.
Like when I was young and I would overthink, like growing up, I would literally write like little books. I have them all on a like USB too that like nobody's ever seen.
I'd love to see those one day.
I think they're kind of
But
cheap.
people don't realize like writing down your thoughts can be very helpful. Like
Yeah.
there is a big difference in like thinking what you want to think and then like writing down what you're thinking
Mhm.
because I have this like trouble where I have all this stuff in my head that I want to say, but I don't necessarily know how to say it and like make it sound the way that it sounds in my head.
Mhm.
So I found by like writing stuff down, I can like better get my words together, better understand what I need to understand, and then better communicate whatever's in my head to whoever I need to communicate that with.
Yeah, and you can do that in different ways. If you're like bullet pointing the
Yeah.
things that you're going through, you can write a like journal to yourself. I know people that literally write daily letters to themselves like, this is what I went through, like this is how I'm
Hmm.
feeling. It is very helpful because the worst thing you can do is just keep that in your mind, especially if you're not talking to someone about it. You can't,
Yeah.
your brain hits a capacity. At some point, it's just going to want to burst. You can't keep
Yep.
stuffing the garbage bag until it just, a hole pops open, and then you got to pick all that garbage up and
Yep.
allocate it somewhere. Because if you don't do it at one point, it's going to happen. Honestly, I don't want to say when it's inconvenient, but 9 times out of 10, it happens when it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yep.
it's something to really just grasp if you can. And another thing I want to hit on, which, like I said, this is a mental health podcast. I'm not trying to like shove religion down people's throats, but we all have our own belief system, and something, like I said, I got to the point where like I didn't know what to do. And I got super in touch with my faith over the past year, to the point where, and like I said, some people will use this, some people will ignore it, but one thing I do is I pray all the time. Especially because if you read the Bible, God wants you to give those anxieties. That is the devil. The devil is working right now. Your video just went off.
Mine did?
Yes!
Well, I can see me and you.
I can't.
You can't
Satan,
see
be
me?
gone. Of course, when I start
Yeah.
talking about Jesus, that happens. I
Dude,
swear.
that's crazy
I
though. That
tell
is.
you what, I'm not kidding. This is why I'm become. I wonder, I want to keep going. I can cut this out, but I don't know why I can't see you. Recording continues smoothly. Live video will return when the internet improves. Is your internet good?
Yeah, I can see you just fine. I've been seeing. Yeah, nothing's different on my end.
Be gone, Satan. We don't have time for your
Yeah, no
bullshit.
doubt, dude. Get the fuck out. You're not
Well, I'm
welcome
gonna keep
here.
going. Maybe it'll come back.
Do you want me to like
Don't end
turn it
it because, yeah, try turning your video. Oh, there we go.
back in business?
Yeah. Okay. Well, now that we've gotten rid of Satan, his BS.
Technical
Um,
difficulties.
so, like I was saying, I have leaned on my faith a lot. And when my anxiety is building up, the Bible talks a lot about, when you're anxious, give that to God. Like, God, at the end of the day, has a plan for you, has things worked out for you, and that's what I'll do. I'll be like, God, like, please, like, help me, like, allow me to have faith in you. And that's really what it comes down to, is just having faith in Jesus, knowing that like he has you, like he's going to take care of you. Like, you release your worries onto him. He wants you to pray to him like when you're
Yeah.
anxious. So like I said, like and I hate that it takes me getting to like a rock bottom place to be like, what do I do? Who do I resort to? And like I said, it got me super in tune to my faith, to where when I'm struggling, I'm like, Jesus, like, allow me to have enough faith in you to just let this thought be gone. Or, since we were talking about Satan, I think this is funny. These girls on a podcast say it. Girls Gone Bible. Love that podcast.
Girls
Don't.
Gone Bible. I love that. That's
It's
cute.
honestly awesome. But, they did an episode on mental health and just religion. And they also say, when you're overthinking and those bad thoughts, obviously Jesus isn't giving you bad thoughts to think about. Like, that comes from
Mhm.
Satan. So these girls literally will say, like, if they're overthinking and they're together, they'll be like, Satan, I rebuke this thought. Like, take it back. I don't want it. And I literally will do that. I'm like, Satan, take your thought. Like, I don't fucking want it. Like, I'm with Jesus. Jesus will give me the good
Yeah.
thoughts. So that's the thing. You have to get, the whole point of this is you have to get creative. It's, especially if you're like me and you're not super big on antidepressants or anxiety medicine. And I'm not speaking badly about it. It's just me personally. I'm scared to go on it. I'm trying to
Mhm.
remedy this myself, and it's hard and it sucks. And there's a lot of trial and error. But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, when you finally see what works for you, you're going to be proud of yourself. You did
Yeah.
this on your own. You've accomplished this on your own, and it's not ever just going to go away forever. I wish it could. I wish I could say it could. But you have you owe it to yourself to find a remedy that works for you
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
not give up on it,
Yeah.
because you only get one life. You don't want to waste it. And I'm a big component of not wasting time. And that's the point I got to. It's like I'm wasting a lot of happy times, a lot of good times that I could be having because I'm so stuck in my head about things that I
Yeah.
should not be stuck in my head about. And like I said, it's easier to say now that I'm in a good headspace. I'm with my best friend. I'm on a podcast. But when you're in those dark moments, it's so hard to come to that realization. And that's why it's so important to have a foundation of what you do when this stuff happens. So you can like flock to it when things go wrong. But if you have nothing to flock to, that's where people struggle, and we
Yeah.
all deal with it. I'm not kidding. Everyone that is around you, everybody's overthought about something in their life. I don't care who they are, what they do, as minuscule or as big as it is, everybody has had an overthinking, like overthought, overthunk before.
Yes.
I had to pull it
Yes.
out.
Yes, dude, I will now say that these people are going to think I'm so stupid, by the way, when they hear that part. They're going to be like, well, we're done listening to this dumbass.
Hey, this country bumpkin is a college grad over here, so don't count her out.
Not using it though, but I have
You're not the only
it.
one. College is a scam. See, and that's even another thing I've been overthinking about. I'm like, I just spent so much money on paying for a degree that I'm not even using, and I don't even know. Like, I am 24 years old, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, really, like, I don't either. Like, I'm in a field of work, but I will say, I wouldn't have gotten into even this field of work without my college degree. It did get me in the door,
Yeah.
but I have done the work where I am now. I have worked my own self to get me here, but my college degree did at least get me in the door so I could work myself to where I am
No,
today. But
100%.
yeah, it has, yeah, what I'm doing has absolutely nothing to do
Well,
with my
and we're not
college
trying
degree.
to like shit on a college degree. Like I said, we
No,
both
absolutely not.
have them.
Doctors wouldn't want you to operate without one. Like, there are certain degrees where yes, you should have one, but that
No,
doesn't define
exactly.
who you are if you don't have one either.
No, and it's a big wide world. We're in a day and age where you can make money doing absolutely anything. As long I
Anything.
truly believe you don't need a degree, you just need a plan and a fucking drive to get it done.
Motivate, you got to
Yeah,
have the drive.
motivate. Not even motivation, the consistency.
Yep.
Cuz that's something I want to hit on too, especially when it comes to doing these things to overcome your overthinking, because it's going to be hard to have the motivation to always do these things, like going to the gym. I don't always have the motivation to go to the gym, but I know it's going to make me feel better. But it's the consistency of like, get your ass to the gym. Once I
Yeah.
do it, I feel a lot better, but it's not that easy. So,
Yeah.
fuck your motivation. You need consistency because that's what's going to carry you through to the end.
Well, and it's a lot of trial by error too. You
Yep.
can't give up and beat yourself up because the first three things you tried didn't work. Like,
Yep.
everyone overthinks differently, so
Mhm.
everyone copes differently, and everyone has different emotions, so they feel differently. So you do what's best for yourself, but it's trial by error. I've been working on myself for quite a while now, and I'm still figuring it out and still trying new things that I haven't done before. And if they work, they work. If not, you move on to the next thing. But it's consistency. It's that drive and that want to become a better person, want to figure out why I overthink, and why do I go through these depressive periods, or why do I have anxiety, whatever that reason is. The why is a big important, but you have to understand, and you have to want to understand.
Yeah. Well, and you have to understand too, like you said, there's a lot of trial and error. You can't just try something for a week and it doesn't work and it's like, oh, no, you have to at least
Yeah.
try. I would say you got to try it for at least like 2 months. I know that sounds long, but like it takes a while for some of this stuff to really start having an effect on you.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like you have to try it and give it enough of a chance, but then again, you can't keep doing the same thing and it not work and expect a different result. So like if you've done it for a while and you're not seeing a change, it's like, okay, we need to reevaluate. Like this isn't really helping me that much. We need to figure out like what plan B is.
Well, it should
And
be roughly a month. It takes 30 days
okay,
to pick
yeah.
up a habit. So I
I
would
did,
say if you say, yeah, by a month,
yeah,
you
I
better
said
try
2 months
something new.
because that's what my dermatologist, I have really bad acne. She's like, give it like 2 months. So now I'm like, just give it like 2 months to like everything go away.
Just 2 months. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Well, and one of the last things I want to say as we wrap up, and this is something I don't believe everything you see on the internet, but this actually I think hits home. A lot of the reason why we overthink is because we think everything has to be done a certain way. You know, there's like an unspoken rule to a lot of things that we do in life. And one of the things I saw was this girl, like I said, I saw this on like Facebook or something. But basically, this girl was like talking to her therapist and just saying, you know, like she's just getting frustrated with these little things in life. And one of the things that would get frustrating to her is she'd run her dishwasher. And when she'd run it, like some of her dishes would still kind of be dirty. She's like, then I'd have to like take them out, hand wash them, you know, let them dry. And the therapist is like, why don't you just run the dishwasher again? And she's like, "Oh, like that's a good point. Like why is it some like unspoken rule like you have to wash it once and then if it's not clean,
Yeah.
hand wash that shit." Like no, wash it again until it's clean. Like that's the thing is like we overthink because we always think there's this like unspoken rule or this unspoken way of like how we have to do things or how we should go about things. And I think just like with the point of life, everybody is at this different point in life. You almost think like at 24 we have friends that are married with babies. It makes you think like
Yeah,
do
most of them. Shit, dude.
really? And it's like, do I need to be married with babies? Like
Yep.
what am I doing wrong? Am I behind the curve? Everybody's at their own speed. There's not a certain way to do everything in the world. Create your own path. Do it your own way. The only thing I say is like just be a good person about it.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
mindful of other people, be aware of your surroundings, but make your own path. Like I said, there's not someone that's going to smack your knuckles with a ruler because you ran the dishwasher just once.
Yeah, it's not a monkey see, monkey do. Like,
Yep.
you could see it, but you don't have to do it. You go
Mhm.
do your own thing. Everyone's different. Like, everyone goes through life differently. Me
Mhm.
and Alex have been friends for quite a while now, but we're on a different path in life, but we're still the bestest of friends. Like,
Mhm.
I don't have to live exactly like Alex, and Alex doesn't have to live like me
Mhm.
for us to like figure out our problems or our issues. Like she does her thing and I do my thing. And what works though between us is like I support her and she supports me. Like she
Mhm.
doesn't expect me to fix her problems and I don't expect her to fix my problems. But
Yeah.
I know if I needed someone, she'd be the first person that I would call that would be there. And I think that
Yeah.
is a big factor in when trying to figure out some of this stuff is having, even if it's one person, but having like a strong support system definitely helps.
Yeah.
Going through a tough thing alone is never easy. Having a strong support system definitely helps.
Yeah. Well, and just someone where, because then I think that's why we can have a lot of honest conversation, why we go to each other with a lot is because it's like we cut the bullshit. It's like we
Yeah,
can just be real. It's like everything aside, like, and you don't have to dig deep and spill your guts to, everybody, but it's good to be able to have someone to be able to go to confide in, to just make yourself feel a little bit sane when you
yeah,
just feel like you're going insane, because that's the only way I can explain overthinking personally is I feel like I'm losing my mind because my mind
yeah,
won't shut off. And just
yeah,
having a friend to be like, dude, like I'm about to lose my mind. And you don't even,
yeah,
like I said, you don't even have to spill your guts to somebody. You can even say it like in a joking way. Like I said, like my head's about to fall off. Like I can't take it anymore. It, it helps. And it's hard to find those people to confide into. And not everybody has those people that they can confide into. But if you don't, I encourage you. to start that conversation with someone close to you. Because
Yeah.
if someone hasn't already done that, I promise you, they are dealing with their own BS. They're not going to be like, like I said, everybody's dealing with this in some kind of capacity. Our minds play games on us in many different ways. Normalize the topic, normalize the conversation. It's hard to find someone to do it with, but you would be absolutely astonished how many people you can bring this up to, and they're gonna be like, I feel you. Like, I understand. Like, we're not going through the same thing, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
for me too, in like reaching out to you, it's good to get like another perspective. Like
Mhm.
when we do talk, we do cut the bullshit. Like
Yeah.
we just talk how we want to talk. But a lot of times, like when we do talk, it's my feelings are either validated, and that means that then I need to find the root of this issue, because if you're seeing it from an outside perspective and I think I'm seeing it from an inside perspective, that's got to be the issue. But sometimes I'll tell you something and you're like, I think you're overthinking it, or think of it this way,
Yeah.
and that changes the whole perspective that I have,
Mhm.
because I've gotten a different perspective that in my time of being emotional, I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
And I think I can help you. I help you do the same, of seeing a different perspective, because we are very much alike, but we're very different, and we think differently when it comes to certain situations that we're in.
Yeah, well, and like you said, a lot of people think off emotions, so it just takes, for me, logic and facts gives me peace of mind. So for
Yeah.
me, like talking to Jessica with my emotions running wild, her being like, "Well, let me like just if she drops some fact or adds some kind of logical explanation or point to why I'm overthinking, then I'm like, okay, because I can take my emotions out of it and I can see her logical thinking. I'm like, okay, like I see what you're saying. And a lot of us just need someone to bring that up to allow us to mute the emotions and start letting the logic play more of a role.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was gonna say, honestly, that kind of wraps up what I was wanting to talk about. But do you have any closing thoughts on overthinking? Any keys of advice? Yeah, just anything on the topic of overthinking you would want people to know, or maybe something you would have wanted to know earlier.
Ooh, that's a good one. I would just say everyone overthinks to some level of degree. Be kinder, be more compassionate and empathetic with people. Try to understand people better. But when it comes to you personally who overthinks, try to understand you. Like, get to know you for you and accept your flaws as a person, because we all have them. But learn to not only accept them, but embrace them and make them a positive in your life and not so much as like a negative.
I love that. I agree. Everybody deserves to be, not mentally bogged down. You owe it to yourself to find a resource, a solution. Just give yourself that peace of mind. And like Jessica said, have grace for other people. You don't know what anybody else is going through. You don't know, what's going on in their mind. So be kind to other people. Have some understanding. Like they might be fighting a lot more battles than I'm fighting right now, and that's not even the important part, but just knowing that everybody has their own battles. You don't know to what extent, so be kind to each other, be understanding, and like I said, you owe it to yourself to overcome the overthinking. It's natural, it's normal, but you don't have to be a victim to it for your whole life. So yeah, between BetterHelp, which is an online therapy website. There are text lines, there are call lines, there are resources to find therapists in your own area. If you go to the mentalmixology.org website, there is a list of resources on there with those text links, the BetterHelp website. So if you're ever looking for resources, please go to our website. Like I said, it's mentalmixology.org, and you can find a whole list of online and even a link that will get you to in person resources in your area. So, like I said, don't sit and suffer. This is a podcast to help you feel a little less alone. So, I hope we were able to do that today. I thank you guys so much for listening. Seriously, so much. I hope we could have helped just one person today. And we will be back. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks for having me. I'll be back.
Okay, here, time out. Stop. Okay.